just gotta have that gold, gold, gold. They'll do anything for gold.
Welcome to Searching for Truth and Treasure in Alabama with Alabama historian, videographer, and speaker Jim Phillips. Jim has spent the last 40 years exploring and finding amazing artifacts on lesser-known sites in the state. He's here with us to discuss the how and where you can legally explore old, privately owned sites and find those amazing treasures from the state's past. Plus, he's going to tell you a story or two about hard-to-believe events he's encountered as he's toured the state. So let's get into it. Here's Jim Phillips. Hello, everybody, treasure hunters out there everywhere, funny story listeners. We have got Jim Phillips back in the podcast studio to bring you another episode. Jim, how are you doing today?
Well, I didn't look in the mirror, so I'm still doing okay. I told you that the last time. Hey, listen, we joked on one of the podcasts about me, coming up the steps at my old age. I'm coming up the steps, and you've got this steps on a level place, another steps. And I hear this voice say, "Sir, can I help you?" And I look up and it's that stuff. It's an old man trying to go up the steps.
Hey, but that guy's real because I've seen him going back and forth all day, so I know it was a real person.
I thanked him. He was polite.
What are we going to talk about today?
Well, I've had a few interesting things happen. We did a talk because I know people are interested in UFOs, and I said, besides the Navy pilots that they're revealing the footage of what they're seeing, and I kind of made fun of them, but God bless our Navy pilots because they go, "Hey, bro. Hey, dude, did you say, yeah, bro?" And they're flying jets, what are they smoking up there? But anyway, I said I saw this large size of a 747 airliner, symmetrical, no windows, no engine. Well, I wouldn't know about windows, but there's no engines, there's no wings, so there ain't going to be no windows. It's symmetrical. And it came down out of the clouds over Birmingham and just sat there for about 30 seconds and off to the southwest at 1,500 or so miles an hour.
This is when you were at Starbucks, right?
Yeah, so when I'm Starbucks, and I joke, but I've always thought these people don't even look at the world. Everybody's got their iPad.
Yeah.
And I said, I had my iPad, but I didn't video it. I didn't know how to use video, and I didn't have time to reach it because this thing would disappear. But anyway, I stumbled into somebody, as I said in the previous iPod, our podcast, that see how high-tech I am. What is it called? But anyway, I talked to a lady in North Alabama who has booked me for talks, and she was talking about subjects. And I said, well, I don't talk about Bigfoot. I was trying to be funny or UFOs. She said, have you ever had an encounter? And I said this in a previous podcast. I said, yes, I had. And I told her what I saw. She got real quiet, says my family and I saw the exact same thing hovering over a lake. On, I think, a Sunday afternoon, they drove out to the lake, and they went out, her husband and children, and there was this massive, long, black object, she said, the size of an airliner. No engines, no wings, just hovered. And then it went, phew. And this one did that 1 second, phew, right out up into the sky. They had emotional trouble with it. Said her children were having trouble sleeping. They're having real mental anxiety, and she said, we may have to move from Alabama. They're afraid to live here, and they did. They moved. I found that out, because I want to talk to her some more about this. Don't want to reveal names or anything. I'm sure they want privacy. And then yesterday, I'm talking to Mike. He's a fellow who is a descendant of one of the biggest pioneering settling families in the central Alabama area. We're going to explore old cemeteries. And he said his brother had called him all upset a while back. He saw a giant black object. No wings, no engines, just symmetrical and black. And I don't like to use the word, but Mike used it. He described it as a saucer. I'm just going to be honest. I've stayed away from that word. But yeah, if you put two plates together, saucers, and it had that kind of geometry, that long, thin, I couldn't tell what it was around because I'm looking at it from 5 miles off. It just looks like a long, thin black. But anyway, he described it as a saucer. And it hovered and went, and that 1 second disappeared up to the sky. Mine went off to the side. So there's another report.
Could he have been seeing it the same time you were seeing it?
I don't know what times they're seeing these. I can't confirm any times. And so
never know. Could have been the same one on the same day.
But I did in the previous podcast, I talked about one of the early scenes in Close Encounters where the airliner control tower is monitoring the traffic, and the TWA Flight 517 is terrorized because they're seeing an object that doesn't appear to be human. Aries Flight 31 is terrorized. The control tower's operating to them, talking to them. Other control tower people come around hovering over this guy, looking at the scope. They're scared. Something's happening. The pilots are all excited. What's it doing? What's it doing? And alarms go off, remember?
Yeah.
Because I'm rehashing this because a lot of people haven't heard that podcast. And anyway, one of the pilots says, God, that was close, because this UFO came right at him. The control tower operator says, TWA 517, do you wish to report a UFO? Over. TWA 517, do you wish to report a UFO? Over. No, we don't report one of those things. Aries 31, do you wish to report a UFO? No, we don't report one of those either. Then he says, I'm quoting him there. Aries 31, do you wish to file a report of any kind? Over. No, we wouldn't know what to report. They don't want to be bothered because they're going to be declared crazy. What's my point in this? How many people may have seen this?
Right. They just aren't saying anything.
They're just not going to say anything. I came home and I told my wife, I told my daughter's so cute, she's 25 now. She was probably 17 then. There's a cartoon where a prospector in the Scooby-Doo cartoon takes pictures in the desert of UFOs, and he says, I've got pictures. And Mariana says, Dad, have you got pictures? She doesn't believe me, so that's cute. But anyway, there's another report of that. But let's go on to something else. A friend of mine called me this morning. We're going to do some of the unusual stuff, hard to believe. He's down in Florida. He was the chair of the sociology department at a big university here in town. He's a brilliant guy. He's compassionate. He cares about stray animals and starving people. And he's a great intellect and a great friend. And he called in. I tried to call him, and I said, listen, I'm going to tell this story where when Joe passed away, he was a high school friend. We all ran around together. Joe passed away from cancer 2012. He was diagnosed in 2011. And God bless my friend I'm talking about. He joined in with me, and we drove this guy and helped him buy groceries. We took him places, took him to chemo. We cared about him. Anyway, my friend in the phone call this morning, I said, I want to tell this story because it's unbelievable. I want to make sure I get it right and see if you say it's not right. He confirmed it. He says, well, I don't remember exactly like you did, but you're right on. That's what happened. Joe was in the hospital, and they were wheeling him in to pass away in a certain room because it was obvious signs he was succumbing. And my friend said he laid there, his eyes were closed, he was like comatose, and he opened his eyes, and he said, tell Jimmy, tell Jimmy. And then he closed his eyes. Then my friend says, and after several seconds, he opened his eyes slowly and said, tell Jimmy. And then he closed his eyes and died.
Oh, no.
Yeah. My friend, as I told him.
And you were Jimmy, right?
Yeah. And
wow.
My friend said this morning, and I think he even said, tell Jimmy Phillips, because he called me Jim.
Yeah.
Jim, but I went by Jimmy, and a vulgar nickname in high school. Because I was obsessed with sexy young girls and stuff in high school, and that gave me a vulgar nickname. Says I've got a one-track mind, so. But it wasn't Worm. That's the nickname you do not want to be, Worm. You can be anything. Mine was despicable, but it wasn't Worm.
So do you think your friend was gonna?
I don't know.
Was he gonna hum out the notes?
No.
that your other friend forgot.
Let me tell you, my friend. I keep trying to avoid names on this show, but the one I talked to this morning said that I probably shouldn't tell you this because he was with him when he died.
Yeah,
he happened to be there. And I said, well, I shouldn't tell you this. I don't know how you take it. And I told him this morning, remember you told me but his last words said he struggled. He closed his eyes, came back, tell Jimmy Phillips. He said,
wow.
And then he died. Now, this is a treasure story.
Yeah.
I'm sitting with Joe, and he's fighting cancer. And his chemo was working, but it kind of started not working. And behind a church in town, this big church, Catholic church, out the wooded area behind it, there is a dump, and there's a fortune in those rare Coca-Cola Hutchinson bottles. They're starting at $5,000 each.
Yeah, y'all can go back and listen to the other podcast.
Yeah,
about
man,
bottles.
you do not want to get behind this church because Padre Father now will shoot your ass. And he may be a priest, but he'll say, I'm going to shoot your ass before he shoots you. They don't want people back there.
Yeah.
They gave me exclusive permission. Now, what I was telling Joe was I saw them going back there. I'd give anything to go back there. He says, why don't you ask Father for permission? I said, Joe, he'll kill me. They wanted me back there. I don't go to Mass anymore. And you know, they'll ask, what parish do you go to? Well, I don't. And they'll run you off. You should be a practicing Catholic. You're not. But anyway, Joe said, promise me you'll ask him. I said, well, if I get permission, and I told the priest this, we're going to I told him about these bottles. I said, I will sell them on behalf of the church. The church gets a third of the money. I get a third of the money for brokering it. Now, I'll spend some of that on charity, feeding the poor, stray animals, whatever, both. The other third will go directly to charities for the needy, for the homeless and all that.
Yeah.
Joe said, promise me you will do this, that you'll talk to Father and get permission. And they have a board of directors at this church, and this priest was so nice. He said, God bless you, Jim, and all. He talked to the board of directors. They said, yes, you have permission, but any holes you dig, you have to fill in by the end of the day. Liability.
Yeah, absolutely.
Behind some little houses, a kid fall.
Right.
You've got to go down 5 feet deep.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's a big lot back there. It's really big, but you dig all that out. You got to fill up what you dig at the end of the day. That's impossible.
Yeah, that's a lot.
They said no backhoes. I got to add that.
Okay.
With a backhoe, you can do this, but you got to dig with shovels. Ain't going to happen.
Wow.
So anyway, they finally ran me off. I tried staying in touch, and he said, we got a new board of directors, just get lost. But my promise to Joe, he knew he was fading, was promise me you'll get permission and dig that, and we're going to help the needy in the church.
Yeah.
And I'm the needy. I'm part of the needy. Which is why I report my eBay sales on taxes, and people say, you idiot, because I make so little money. Anyway, this is a true story. Imagine if somebody said, with an old high school friend,
wow.
his last words were,
tell Jimmy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Tell Philip. Tell Philip.
I mean, I think I would have at least smacked him around or something and said, tell him what?
Yeah,
he's dying.
I told him, tell me, you have any idea what he was saying? He says, I don't know, but that actually happened. And
so did you ever go dig behind the church?
No, I
never did it.
I got torn rotator
cuffs
in both shoulders. Remember, I told you I'm going to take you metal detecting.
He's going to take me metal detecting so I can do all the digging.
Yeah, right. And Clint Eastwood and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. We're going to go that mound of dirt that I'm convinced has still got antebellum gold coins in it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say to you, Philip, there's two kinds of people in this world: those who watch and those who dig.
Yeah.
And I'm going to shovel on. It's going to throw it on the ground. And say, you dig.
I'll dig. I'll take my extra anti-inflammatories.
That's what
that day.
the man with no name, Clint Eastwood, said in The Good and the Bad and the Ugly. All right.
All right. On to some bunches. Let's go to some treasure stuff. Jim.
All right. But I want to do a little preview. I hope we can get to a future talk where I talk about my last confession.
Yeah.
What goes on in the confessional stays in confessional. No names will be mentioned, but this one is unbelievable. And then my only visit to a psychiatrist, which I told you about, and you're still laughing over.
Yeah, I'm still laughing at it.
All 100% true. No names will be mentioned.
Something to look forward to right there.
But they're unbelievable stories, and I promise you they're true. And I keep saying, are any of these pilots, any of these people seeing UFOs saying I'll take a lie detector test?
No, probably not.
I keep saying that.
Yeah.
I will.
Yeah, you will.
And
you'll pass it. You'll pass it out.
And like my friend, the sociologist, said once, and I was telling him some of these stories, and he said, well, the thing is, with a lie detector test, it doesn't prove that you're telling the truth. It just proves that in your mind you think it's true.
That's right. You believe what you're saying.
Well, that's right.
Yeah.
It tests for perspiration, increase in heart rate, and blood pressure.
Yeah.
So, but I'm still willing to do it. But if I pass it, I want $500. Treasure. It's like May of 1972, and Father Bouffard, this is the treasure, calls me up.
This is in Dauphin Island?
Yeah, St. Edmunds by the Sea. I tried to call it yesterday to see if whoever the priest is remembered him. I couldn't understand the priest. He sounded like Muhammad or something or other. It's like, I'm not mocking him.
Yeah.
But he's from the Middle East or something. I'm sure he's an honorable, virtuous, holy man.
Sure.
But I said, I can't ask him questions. I can't understand the recorder.
Right.
But anyway, God bless him, a good man, I'm sure. But anyway, Father Bouffard called me, and I'd said this in a previous podcast. He says, little French man, delightful. Says, your mother called you. My mother, being a devout Catholic, she is, called down there and says, Father, my son is single and he's living on the island, and he's not frequenting Mass anymore, but can you keep an eye on him? Because I know he's going to be chasing bikinis and platinum blondes up down the beach. And I was, and I
Sure.
did.
Yeah.
But anyway, he called me up, says, your mother's from Boston, and she's a Red Sox fan. Jim, I'm a Red Sox fan, and with a French accent. Come over, I'll make some coffee. We're going to watch the Red Sox play the Yankees, I think, the big competition. Went over there, delightful fella. He said, sit in the kitchen after the game, make some coffee. He says, how well do you know the island? I know it like the back of my hand because I hike the island.
Mm-hmm.
When you chase bikinis, you hike all over the island. You find some of those girls walking in the woods out there. No,
they're not all beach lovers.
No, they're all on the beach. They're really all on the beach. But anyway, I told him I knew it well, and he says, do you know about the missing gold cross? And I looked that up on Google today, and they go back to the same story.
Yeah.
There's a historian down there, and I've spoken to him, and he's kind of intrigued by me. The story is the legend. The Lemoyne brothers, Pierre, and I'm trying to think of the other one, his brother Lemoyne. Anyway, there's two of them. They're so-and-so Pierre Lemoyne, the other. They were founding the Mobile area in 1699. The French came in. And by the way, Dauphin Island, you think it's the fish. It's not. Dauphin is the title for what will be the next emperor of France, which is going to be Louis the 15th back then. In
Right.
the early 1700s. So they named it after him, Dauphin, his title, Dauphin Island. So the French settled the area. Dauphin Island, the port, Governor Cadillac comes ashore, and they established this is the capital of the whole French territory, of which Louisiana is named after Louis the 15th. The territory goes from Dauphin Island all the way up into Canada. All that's French territory. Remember the Louisiana Purchase?
Oh, yeah.
Where the United States purchased the Louisiana territory?
Right.
Okay. This is controlled, governed by Governor Cadillac and his little palace, you could say, all the way up to Canada. Anyway, Father Bouffard is explaining there's a storm, and he says, I think it might be the hurricane of 1717, which was monstrous. There's a map of Dauphin Island drawn in 1717, one in 1718. Now, during the storm, according to Father Bouffard, and he went back to France, and he said, in the dark archives of a Catholic church, cathedral, goes back to medieval days, he found a journal or diary of a French soldier that was stationed on the island. Governor Cadillac, 1712, 1717, he's got soldiers there.
Yeah.
They're barracks. This soldier was involved with other soldiers, moving this, according to the journal or diary, described as the height of a man, jewel-laden. Now, you don't just have crosses in Catholic churches. They're crucifixes, and I've seen them in copper. So it's going to be Christ in gold.
Right.
On the cross. The height of a man back then, 5'2".
Yeah, yeah.
Frenchmen are short anywhere.
that's right.
Wee, right? That's why they go wee.
Wee little men.
They're
Yeah.
wee because they're short, right? But anyway, height of a man. They're carrying this cross during the storm, and they're trying to relocate it for safety, and they dropped it. And he said they went back to get it after the storm. Now, if you ain't been on Dauphin Island, and I told the story in another podcast, there's a 300-foot pier down there, 100 feet over the beach, and it was 200 feet going out in the water, and it's 20 feet deep at the end.
Yeah.
There's dry sand on the end of it now.
Yeah.
The storms have reshaped the shoals and barrier islands,
Right.
sandbars and all. So everything's being reshaped. So they went back to get the crucifix. We're going to call it crucifix.
Yeah.
For the altar of Governor Cadillac, his personal altar. Now, the legend says it was on the steeple of the church, though the fishermen could see it. And people could know where the port is. You don't put something that big of gold on top of a steeple at
Right,
night that can
right.
be stolen. And it's very heavy.
Yeah.
It's meant for the altar. It's Governor Cadillac's for his private altar. I know what this is.
Yeah.
And that's what the journal said. Anyway, they couldn't find it. Storm's over. It's under all this sand. They could never retrieve it. It's still down there.
Wow.
There's no record of anybody finding it. It's going to be worth millions of dollars as a historical artifact. I maintain is the most credible story of what, if found, would be the most valuable artifact in a century found in the United States. It's part of our French history, the settlement of that area. I called a lady at the Catholic diocese office. The diocese is a territory where there's all the churches, and a bishop rules over it or oversees it. But I called her. She's in Mobile, and she emailed me, says, "Why aren't you going after this?" And I've told this part before in the podcast. And I says, "Well, I don't have $2 million, and you're going to have to get legal permission to get it. I think I know pretty much where it is. You need deep ground penetrating radar to get this, but I think it can be found."
Right.
And I says, "And it's going to belong to either the Catholic Church or the state of Alabama. I ain't going to get any of that. I won't even get a thank you."
That's right. Yeah.
Some archaeologist from some university, they're standing by when I point out and we find it's going to try to take credit for it and all that. I know how that game's played. And and they're great archaeologists. I know a couple that are good, honorable men, but I know some that are big egomaniacs.
Yeah.
But anyway, and she said, "Well, I think it would belong to the French government." Bingo, I agree.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
Now, I'm thinking about maybe just sniffing around a little bit and trying to find out who we've got in the United States representing France and say, "Would you be interested in France saying this belongs to us? We want to go for it."
Yeah.
And let's just call Aunt Kay.
Yeah.
To scare people. My aunt, no, she's not. Governor Kay Ivey. Yeah, Kay Ivey's a sharp,
she
smart
might
lady.
go
I
for that,
like Governor Kay Ivey.
Yeah, me too. I think.
I mean, we sure could have done worse. She's a sharp cookie.
Yeah.
But this thing is still down there. I'm just certain there's no record of this ever been found. The Catholic Church would have documented it. The French government would have documented it. No record. It's still under the sand, and it's going to be the height of a man, short man. It's going to have emeralds and rubies in it, and it will not be a cross. It will be a crucifix. But the legend is it was thrown down a well. One legend says the priest held it, and you can't lift that by yourself. It jumped in the well, committed suicide to hide it from the pirates. That's the story. So,
that's interesting.
Yeah, so that thing is still down there, and I understand. About 2 years ago, I was talking to the head of the Chamber of Commerce at City Hall down there, and she says, "Jim, they're digging out wells down here looking for this thing."
Huh, really?
Yeah, they're taking it that serious. So I say, now, are there two crosses? There could have been a smaller cross that you could put on top of the steeple.
Yeah.
And maybe during a pirate attack, they did throw it down a well. I don't know. Right. I wasn't alive. But I know this. One French soldier says they were moving this, the height of a man, with jewels in it, gold crucifix from Governor Cadillac's altar going from point A to B. Yeah. I know where point A and point B are.
Right.
They lost it at point B.
Yeah.
Now, the island's been reshaped, but all you got to do is look at your 1717 map, the 1718 map. Even though it's been reshaped dramatically, I know what's going on, and I can say it's going to be right here. And if I stand right there, we can go out, and it's going to be a big area.
Yeah.
We can go out about 35, 40 yards radius and draw a circle.
Right.
That's a lot of area to cover.
That's a lot of area.
That's a lot of area.
And how deep do you think it would be in the sand?
Golly, you know how much that's going to weigh?
Yeah.
That's going to be, I don't know, and the sand gets wet. It's going to be down, I'd say, deeper than 12 feet, 10 feet at least.
Yeah.
The radar will find it. There's no metal detector
right.
find that. And I've got Garrett metal detectors, and I've promoted a GTI 2500 with imaging, and I do have the 2-box converter. You can put this big 2-box device on it, and it will find like a tackle box at 4 or 5 feet deep.
Oh, wow.
That's deep.
That is deep.
The regular coils will not do that.
Right.
So, I could go down there maybe with permission with a 2-box.
Yeah.
But but I could go.
Why get permission? I mean, is it on a public
beach?
Your
butt shot off.
Oh, but I mean, is it on a public beach now? Couldn't you just go kind of roam around just like you're just a guy out there?
You got a country club down there. You got people owning lots. You got state property and all this and that.
So it's not like a public
eminent domain. Wherever it is, the state's going to claim property. By the way, let me tell you about who owns what. I used to walk on the beach down there, and public property is the high tide mark on any beach. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yes. So I'm walking behind, I think it's called the Dauphin Country Club, and their security guy comes out there and says, hey, boy. You know, I wish I looked that young now.
Is his name Beauregard?
Yeah, I said, this is private property. You got to get out here. I said, let me tell you something. I work for the state Sea Lab in conjunction with the federal Sea Lab, which I did as an assistant biologist.
Yeah.
I said, federal law is, you see that high tide mark where the seaweed is, all that out to the water is public property.
Mm-hmm.
Your country club doesn't own it. You can't tell me get off of it.
Interesting.
Well, don't let other people know that. don't let other people be aware of that. Now they're doing that on Malibu Beach in California. And stuff. You've got these celebrities that buy these beautiful beach homes,
Right.
and they're complaining because people are walking up and down the beach taking pictures and got binoculars, and they're telling them you can't stop them.
Yeah.
That's public beach.
That's right. That's right.
Now, when they get closer to your cottage from the high tide mark, now that's your property.
So you're saying the next time I'm down like in Orange Beach and I'm in front of my condo, which is probably, it's a decent condo, but the condo beside us is those really high-end luxury ones that I can't afford to stay in, and they tell me I can't go.
You just go,
I just got to go
for the
close
high
to the
tide,
water.
where the high tide's gone up. You can see it.
I got you.
Spread your blanket.
That's so good to know.
Spread your blanket out there, play loud music.
Yeah.
Pick your nose. Have a date with you. Take some bikini top off.
And I'm going to have your card. I'm going to say,
do all the obscene things.
Just call Jim
Yeah,
Phillips
right.
and he can explain this rule to you because it's true.
Right. So anyway, when I lived in Biloxi, I wish you hadn't have said that, but I worked with this media company, and these guys would come over, and they had a little convention. They went to all the strip joints, and they're all married, and they pass out my card. And want to know if the stripper calls me to let them know, pretend to be me because they're married. And
You're the middleman.
It made me so mad they're passing out my cards. I'll pass out my own damn card.
There you go.
Strippers.
There you go.
And they like me because I was single.
Well,
right?
you remember you used to wear my Video Visions T-shirt. You said you used to always wear it when you were out metal detecting.
Yeah, I wish I was single. I'd wear it in the strip clubs. Listen, I want to. I'm a historian. You don't believe that, do you? I did a talk 2 days ago up to Memory Group.
Yeah.
Memory loss.
Right.
Call it dementia, whatever, at a retirement community. And I've got a reputation for speaking to Memory Group.
Yeah.
I had a big church in Mount Brook called me this week, want me to do my 5th talk to Memory Group. They said they love you. You will not believe this group. Their Memory Group, they come in. Jim Phillips slapped me on the back. They're like teenagers.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
I said, I see no memory loss in here, but what you do is talk slower than I do now.
Yeah.
It's Memory Group.
Right.
Really suffer from short-term memory. You do show and tell.
Right.
You talk about nothing more than 30 seconds, you pick up something else. That is retained.
Yeah.
So I excel at that. I love them. I'm so privileged and honored to be amongst this people.
Yeah.
So I did one of those talks 2 days ago. Now, I'll kind of mention, I do speak at retirement communities and libraries, and we're going to say that people can book me, and we are going to put up my PayPal account.
Yeah, for sure. So Jim, this costs money for Jim to go out and do this exploration stuff. He's got some big plans, a lot of places he wants to go. So we got to get him a little money. We don't make money doing this podcast, but hey, if you want to float him a few bucks on this PayPal account, go to JimPhillipsAlabama.com.
Wikipedia, I do a lot of research on Wikipedia. They're highly accurate.
Yeah.
And they will pop up twice a year that says, we need financial support so we can continue to do research and all, and I need it too.
Sure.
I will promise you that any money that comes in is going to be my PayPal account. I'm going to document.
Yeah.
I got a lawyer friend that any I'm going to pay for gas only, photocopy and research, and gas travel expenses.
Yeah.
Is how any donation would be.
Right.
Will not go into for my groceries or anything. It's going to be travel expenses. I want to keep a log of this. One person said something once. My wife, my daughter says, I said, your mother doesn't think I have a lot of attributes in the world, Marion. She said one thing nice about you. She says you're totally honest. And I bust out laughing. Well, at least I got that going on.
You are
with
totally
my wife.
honest.
Right.
You are definitely.
So we're going to get that up and running, PayPal.
Yeah, and look, guys, if y'all do donate money, it's kind of, you get to follow along with what he's doing because
I'll do more podcasts, and we'll talk about my last confession.
That's on another one. We can't talk about it today.
We'll talk about my one visit to a psychiatrist, and you ain't going to believe it. It's 100% true.
So basically, look, we got to get Jim out of the podcast studio and out there in the field.
Let's
doing
talk
a little
some
more
history.
searching, so.
I'm not a Civil War historian, but I guess I've kind of become one, and I've had a couple of retirement communities. One called me last year. It's Jefferson Davis's birthday, and you know a lot about the Civil War because you come talk, and so I go and talk, and I try to put a little bit of wisdom and character in the things I do, despite the occasional damn and hell and all that. I hope people can benefit. And again, I want to say, When I talk about appraising coins, buying things, rare bottles, you benefit financially from anything you've learned from me. I can't enforce this. I can beg you. Will you take 10% of a profit you realize you made by hearing me and use it to feed the homeless, the needy, and even help some stray animals out there, okay? Do what's right, okay? Now, let me get into a little history here. I'm talking about the Civil War, and I like to talk about how we all need to get along. We got more political hate in this country.
Yeah.
We got North hate, South hate, this and that. Let's get that crap out of us, okay?
Yeah.
There's some of my vulgarity. Jefferson Davis, who becomes president of the Confederacy in 1835, marries Sarah Knox Taylor, the daughter of soon-to-be president Zachary Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
He's a senator. She marries Jefferson Davis, who is a senator from Mississippi. All right. She dies 6 weeks after they marry. They go down to visit relatives of hers in Louisiana, and she catches fever and dies. 10 years later, in 1845, he marries Verena Howell. She becomes Verena Howell Davis. On their honeymoon, they go to the gravesite of previous wife Sarah Knox Taylor. You know what I got to say about doing that on your honeymoon? Kinky. Did you get there for your wedding night? The graveside of your previous wife? That is kinky. But they did this. I doubt they did it on their wedding night. You know. Go to the grave, that is.
Yeah, all right.
The other thing, yes. But go to the grave. Okay, anyway, Jefferson Davis dies in 1889. Verena Howell. Now, they're poor after the Civil War. Now, remember, the Confederacy surrenders to General Ulysses Grant April 9th, 1865 at Appomattox. Jefferson Davis is broke. He's put in prison for about a year and a half. They don't abuse him. He's got visits from Verena Howell. And they let him out. And they go to England and stuff and Europe trying to succeed. They got no money. It ain't working. They come back. He tries to sell insurance out of Memphis, Tennessee. Now, a widow named Sarah something has a nice home on the beach overlooking the ocean in Biloxi. She gives them their home. You can live here free. They need help. They ain't got no money, right?
Right.
That's my worst English. So anyway, they inherit the home. The widow dies and puts it in the will. So that's their home. They got a plantation in Mississippi, but it's a run-down plantation.
Right.
You know, after the war, it's run down. And the home in Biloxi is better. Anyway, Jefferson Davis dies in 1889, December 6th to be precise. Now, guess where Verena Howell Davis moves? She's living in that nice home given to them in Mississippi. Guess where she moves? And they got some plantation land in Mississippi. Where does she move?
I have no idea.
I spoke to a lady the other day, and she's a member of this Confederate group and all this and that, and I thought she might know some of this. I surmise most of them don't. She moved to New York City.
Really?
Remember the pecani sauce?
Yeah, New York City.
New York City. Though you guys that don't know what this is, the cowboys are sitting around the fire. You know, it's all Texas, right? You know, Texas hot sauce, all of this hot sauce. And this cowboy says, Zeke, this sauce is damn good. He says, where's this made? Meaning where in Texas? And guys reading the label says, New York City. They go, New York City. Anyway, Verena Howell moved to New York City with her daughter. She wants to be a writer.
Ah, okay.
She doesn't hate the South.
Right.
But her best friend, not her friend, her best friend becomes the widow of Ulysses Grant, the general who will be president, the general that the South surrendered to.
Wow.
And the wife, the first lady of the Confederacy, become best friends. There's hundreds of pictures of them partying.
Cool.
Yeah, they do yacht trips. They party on the lake up in Canada. They go to theater together. They just adore each other as best friends. Now, Verena Howell Davis did not hate the South. She would come down for Confederate reunions, but they were pissed that she went.
I bet.
They were
I'm
pissed
sure.
that she was friends with the widow of the general the South surrendered to. But she donated that home in Biloxi to Home for Homeless and Needy Confederate Veterans.
Oh, that's cool.
So she had a kind heart for everybody.
Yeah.
The Southern boys and the Northern boys too, as did Julia Grant respected the Southern boys and the Northern boys. Their attitude about the war was, what a waste.
Yeah.
What a horrible waste of young men.
Yeah.
That's what the war meant to them. It was a horrible waste. They're not arguing over nonsense again.
Right.
Horrible waste. But that's now when when Julia Grant passed away too, Verena Howell Davis fell on her knees sobbing, fell on the floor sobbing. That's a beautiful story, and I want fellow Americans to think about that, where we hate this person, I hate this person. If the widow, the First Lady of the Confederacy, can become first and best friends with the widow of the general that the South surrendered to, and they respect each other, and they respect the part of the nation they came from without any hate or malice, why can't we do that?
I know. It's a simple, conscious decision. It really is.
Yeah. So old brother Jim Phillips is through with his sermon.
All right, guys. Jim, as always, it has been another entertaining podcast. So we want to remind everybody, go to JimPhillipsAlabama.com. You can see pictures of Jim's artifacts. You can get information about him speaking. You can donate to his PayPal account. Give him hundreds and hundreds and thousands of dollars. He's going to put them to good use.
Let me tell you something. If somebody out there, I really want to tell stories, and you want to hear, they're all true. And again, you fly to Birmingham, pay the $200 or $400 for a lie detector test. When I pass it, you give me $500. If I don't, I give you $500.
That's a pretty good deal.
That's the deal. You did call it a podcast, didn't you?
It is a podcast.
Oh, I thought you said buttcast.
No.
You have what's called butt call with the cell phones?
Yeah.
That's a
But
podcast.
no. Anyway, guys, we appreciate y'all listening. Go back, listen to other podcasts, subscribe to them, and we will catch you on another episode soon.
Gold, they just gotta have that gold, they'll do.
Thanks for listening to another episode. If you have questions for Jim Phillips or would like more information on his speaking availability, visit his website at JimPhillipsAlabama.com.